Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first in our series of 4 webinars focused on severe ME/CFS, presented in collaboration with the Bateman Horn Center and Solve ME. I'm Talia Ruscioni, Education and Deputy Executive Director at the Bateman Horn Center, and I will be your moderator today. We're so glad that you've joined us. This first webinar is focused on caregiving, where we will hear from 4 incredible caregivers who will share their personal stories, practical strategies, and ways to navigate the medical system when supporting a loved one with severe ME/CFS. This is the start of our series, and we encourage you to join us for all 4 sessions. On November 13th, we will cover legal rights and protections. December 4th, medical treatment approaches for severe ME/CFS. And on January 15th, the latest research on ME/CFS and infection-associated chronic conditions. All of these webinars will be recorded and made available on the Bateman Horn Center and Solve ME websites, as well as on our YouTube channels. You will receive an email in the days following the session with the recording link and a resource guide that will include tools and insights shared by our panelists. As a reminder, this webinar is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal or medical advice. Viewers are always encouraged to consult with qualified legal or medical professionals for specific advice tailored to their individual needs. If time permits, a Q&A will follow the presentation. Please enter your questions in the box at the bottom of the screen and upvote your favorite questions. Closed captioning is available on the Zoom control setting as shown on the PowerPoint slide on the screen. Each of the panelists will start by briefly introducing themselves and their connection to the illness. We will then follow with 3 questions for each panelist focused on one of the following: daily care and relationship maintenance, navigating systems and trusting your instincts, self-care and relationship navigation, and caregiving mental wellness. I'd like to take a moment to express deep appreciation to our panelists for being here and sharing their experiences. We're grateful for your vulnerability and willingness to share your caregiving journeys and insights with us. Caregiving for someone with severe ME/CFS can be a complex and evolving role. It's not just about providing care. It's about maintaining connection, managing uncertainty, and supporting the well-being of a loved one whose daily life is deeply affected by the disease. We are here today to honor the importance of that role and to provide support and to share strategies that may help caregivers navigate this path. I'd like to begin by hearing from Kyle Kitzmiller, who will speak on daily caregiving and the impact on personal relationships. Kyle, please take a moment to introduce yourself and share your connection to long COVID and ME/CFS, and then follow up with what practical strategies you have implemented to help manage daily care tasks for your wife.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for hosting this. I'm really honored to be a part of this. It's so important to talk about caregiving and it's such a central role in a person's recovery is the system around them. So my name is Kyle Kitzmiller. I'm a mechanical engineer. I was a producer at the YouTube channel Physics Girl. My wife, Diana Cowan, is the host, creator of that YouTube channel, and she fell ill with COVID in summer of 2022, and it rapidly progressed to the severe ME/CFS style of long COVID, and I am now her primary caretaker. And so that's my connection to the illness.
What practical strategies have helped you manage daily care tasks and activities of daily living for your wife?
Absolutely, yeah. The practical stuff is just sort of the straightforward organization. Make a schedule so that every day you know exactly what's going to happen. Create a symptom log so you know exactly how your partner is doing over time. You can see changes, whether they're good or bad. And lastly, employ help, meaning getting family, getting friends. When Diana first got sick, I had a friend, at that point, my life was just exploding when she first became very severe. And I had a friend organize meal drop-offs that made a very huge difference because it's just one more thing I didn't have to think about. And then I slowly onboarded scheduling, symptom logging, and then also creating treatment plans is another key one, because even if you don't end up following those, which you almost never do exactly, you have like this security and you know what's going to happen in the future. So those are all really important things. And the last thing I would say on that is to try and enjoy the day to day. It's one of those things where, when I'm making food, I'm always listening to music and I'm just trying to like enjoy the ride. There's the driving freeway analogy. If you're stuck in traffic on a highway, like you're going to be there whether you want to or not. You might as well try to enjoy it. So it's not what you want to be doing. It's not what you would prefer, but you have to make the most of it. You have to try and enjoy your life every day. So that's my advice in terms of activities of daily living and staying organized.
I imagine having some of that routine and consistency allows a little bit more flexibility when something does come up or a baseline changes. Would you say that that's true?
I haven't had a problem sort of changing or being flexible either way, but for me, what it really does is it opens up my mind to focus on other things. I can focus on our relationship because I'm not worried about what I'm going to do today. It's just background noise at that point. Once you have a schedule and you've implemented it for a few months, it's autopilot. You can just look at a sheet of paper, know what you're going to do, and then you can take time to be present in the moments with your partner that are going to be more meaningful rather than focusing your energy on worrying about what medications or food or something is happening that day.
That makes sense. And I'm glad that you brought that up. How have you and your wife managed to maintain your relationship despite the challenges of severe long COVID? Do you have any tips that you can offer to other caregivers on preserving intimacy and connection?
Yes, and it's like, this could be a half hour hour answer of itself. But I think a relationship is always going to start with trust. And in order to develop that trust with your partner in this like crazy, their life has just changed so drastically, their body is out of control, you have to connect with them. You have to ask questions and really try and understand what they're going through in a way that no one else is going to be able to understand, not their doctors, not even other patients, right? You have to just ask questions and really try and understand. And that builds a trust from which the rest of your relationship can then develop. The second point, and I could go off on this because I'm very passionate about it, is that you have to view your relationship outside of the context of societal norms. I call this defining your relationship. We have, relationship escalators in life. That's like, this is what you're supposed to do next. And these are the things you're supposed to do. And you're supposed to get value out of the relationship, and your partner provides some value, and you're supposed to both get the same amount of value according to, some external judgments of what's valuable. And when someone becomes sick, the way that the things that they're able to bring to a relationship are very different. And so you have to start by saying, well, do I love this person? And if I love them, how can we, each get things that we need and not worry about judging the value of those by some external metrics? But it's like, if Diana wants to, like she loves making puns, and that's just like a thing I love, is like leaning into like, all right, let's talk jokes today or whatever. We're just going to make a bunch of puns. And like, I find that very valuable, but it's not like an external metric of like, what is a relationship, And I don't know, you just have to sort of release a lot of the expectations that have been put on what relationships are supposed to be. And it takes a long time to do. But I think at the end, you're going to have a relationship that's just so much more beautiful than even it was before, if you can do that.
I love that. Really just giving yourself permission to redefine what that means, right? For you two and for that relationship. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, So, what practical steps have you taken to maintain your own self-care and to nourish your own mental and emotional well-being as a caregiver?
The main things I've done is around friends and community. I think for me personally, and it changes for different people, but for me, having active friendships and things to do with friends is how I am revitalized. So in terms of the psychology, I schedule regular hangouts with friends. I think this is important because it means that if I don't want to see somebody, I have to cancel it, right? Whereas if you want to see somebody and you don't have anything scheduled, you have to go through all these steps to schedule something. So I just have, like, with a few different friends, it's every other week we hang out. We'll have a board game night. I'll go to a friend's house another night, whatever it is. And so those are things that are scheduled and they just happen. And then I get Diana's friends involved to come and, visit her when it's appropriate, when she can feel up to it. They'll just come and visit me sometimes. These are, involving as much community and family as you can is, I think, really important. Another key point is to maintain your, like, levelness, because this disease is full of ups and downs, and just it's designed to create anxiety. Is avoid projecting how you're feeling now onto the future. Your partner might be healing and you might then say, I feel good, and I think that next week I'm going to feel better, and then next week comes along and your partner is crashed and they feel worse than they have in 6 months, and you just flipping between those two things is just devastating. And on the same token, if your partner is feeling ill and you're projecting that sort of despair into the future, you're just going to feel really bad. You're going to be frantically trying to change things, and you can't change things quickly in this disease. So avoid projecting what you're feeling now onto the future. That's really been key for me to just kind of level out the day to day and stay mentally healthy.
Really good advice. And I mean, there's a couple quotes in there that I think we need to just pull out and keep on sticky notes for all of us. I
Sure.
really appreciate your time today, Kyle, and for sharing you and your wife's journey with us. I hope that we will have a little bit of time after we speak to some of the other panelists to get back to some questions. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Next, we have Amy Mooney, an occupational therapist and mother who has navigated both healthcare and education systems for her daughter with severe ME/CFS. Amy, please start by sharing a bit about your background and then follow up with how you've relied on your instincts to navigate these complex systems, ensuring that your daughter receives the support she needs and deserves.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm also a mother for 3 medium-sized kids. They are in the throes of developing who they are and becoming just figuring out where they want to go with their lives. And throughout my daughter, my middle child's almost 11 years of having ME, she's now 19. So she's had ME for a long period of her time. I have been told that countless times that it's my understanding that's wrong, and I'm exaggerating her symptoms, or I'm catastrophizing the situation. But I was there, I'm there to witness the heartbreak of her not being able to go to school or attend a sleepover or even eat a meal at the dining room table. And these are things that parents will just take for granted. It didn't take long for me to recognize that it was the medical experts in the school who was misunderstanding the consequences of my daughter's illness, not necessarily me. I was witnessing it and picking up the pieces as she experienced the devastating symptoms of ME. I remember the exact moment my perspective actually shifted from me trying to pull my daughter along to keep up with me and the rest of the family to actually following her lead and listening to her needs. my instincts had radically shifted. And it was at that point that I realized I was the advocate for my daughter's new voice. And she had been telling me and the doctors and the caregivers or the teachers all along what she needed, but no one was really listening. She was a child. How do you really take for granted? How do you understand what a child is going through? But once I believed in my ability to be a caregiver, I began to listen to her actual needs, her story, rather than imposing what I thought they should be. So like I said before, I've been a medical provider for many, many years, but I never really truly understood what it meant to be a caregiver. They're completely different. And to me, being a caregiver is about active listening. It's about respecting another person's needs and supporting their goals. And with this new perspective, after years of listening and learning from the awesome ME community, I began to reflect on how my profession fails to understand ME. And I took a closer look at understanding how the rehab specialists were going about it wrong. This was really uncomfortable. This was not a pleasant experience, but it pushed me to rethink how occupational therapy specifically should really be supporting people with ME and what the proper care should look like, what should be involved. And I was able to take some of that and kind of adjust it to our life. What did my daughter actually need? So you asked about instincts, and I think that's a major component, is trusting my instincts. And that meant focusing on my daughter's goals. These weren't society's goals, like Kyle was saying. These were and they weren't even like just family goals. These were her goals specifically. And I found that, you really can't compare them to other kids with ME even, or, even to siblings, even the kids in the same house here. That didn't help. So she was grieving. I was grieving. There was a lot of loss. And my priority had to be to help her find the small ways to find some control and predictability in her new daily life. And also, this was also involving trusting my instincts to recognize her limitations and the limitations in general of this disease. I had to accept that no matter how much we wanted school to be part of her life and part of the plan, it wasn't going to benefit her health right now. So when she was healthier, or when she is healthier, the plan is that she return learning and actually be a better learner. But at this point in the illness process, it was not the right time. So I needed to trust that education is a lifelong journey, and it can take many, many forms beyond the traditional settings of school. And for a child with severe ME, education just wasn't part of the current goal. And it just simply was beyond the capacities for that moment. So how can caregivers really trust their instincts? It's essential. My husband and I know our daughter better than anyone else. And we also needed to protect ourselves from being misunderstood. And whether that means being seen as by outside professionals as, being controlling, or even falsely accused of situations that were possibly abuse or neglect, which were completely false. We need to do things that would protect us as being her caregiver. She was a minor just last year. And so these are my 3 takeaways that I think for those people that have children with ME may be able to benefit. And the first one is to invite as many professionals as you possibly can into your home. That can be a school nurse, or even a nurse at your child's pediatrician's office, a social worker, even your clergy. Invite them into your home so they can start to witness firsthand. It's no longer you retelling the story and recounting the situation, but they now have firsthand knowledge. And number two is whenever you can, let your loved one express for themselves. And it's so hard as a parent. You want to speak, you want to take control and do things for your child. But I've learned you have to let your child speak and let others witness the struggle for them to find the right words, for them to share their thoughts. The medical team, the education team needs to witness this. So the impairment needs to be witnessed beyond just the parents or the caregivers. And finally, documentation is essential. And like Kyle was saying, that, writing things down and documenting symptoms and just the overall functional performance is very important, because you need to show that 6 months ago things were different. And sometimes we forget this. We block out things that were really uncomfortable and painful, but we need to be able to document it. And this can be used for disability applications, and also just helps in general monitor progress and decline. And I'm going to make my worksheets available for you all to have access to, just give examples. And you can cut and paste and redesign it yourselves, but at least it gives some background of how to start documenting functional performance.
We have just another minute here, but I really want you to touch on how can caregivers validate their own loved one's experiences and ensure that the voices of that loved one are heard.
Yeah, I think just recognizing those lived experiences, that is their truth. That is your truth. As a caregiver, you witness things that nobody else is experiencing. And that alone is chronic, traumatic stress disorder. I mean, it is deep. And so those lived experiences, in my world, it is one of the toughest challenges of caregiving. And the constant need to have to explain the disease outside of our walls of our home is really exhausting. So I guess I often, we meet that experience, or we meet that resistance most with those that are trying to force the narrative that we aren't living up to their expectations. But I think when we flip it around and start looking outside, there are a lot of people that are in the ME community that share those same experiences. We might not have the same dynamic. We might not have the same age, there are age gaps, but those people have what we don't find in the general population. They have that lived experience if they understand the kind of the code words, and they recognize how big crashes can be, but they also can understand how very minute improvements mean the world. So I think that not looking to necessarily getting validation from the professional medical community, I think looking at who your peers are in the ME community is where validation and lived experiences can be exchanged.
Amy, your unwavering support and advocating for your daughter and bringing awareness to the community's needs, it runs deep and it's felt. Thank you. I have personally learned so much from you, and I hope that we can continue to share that with many others. Our next panelist is Kim Moy, who has developed the Thrive as a Caregiver course. Throughout her caregiving journey, Kim has focused on maintaining a strong relationship with her husband, ensuring he remains central in their lives while also recognizing the importance of self-care. Kim, could you please introduce yourself and share some of the strategies from your Thrive as a Caregiver course that have helped caregivers build resilience and prevent burnout? And how do you suggest caregivers can balance self-care with the demands of caregiving?
Hi, my name's Kim Moy, and my husband has had ME/CFS for over 30 years. When we first met, his ME/CFS was not that bad, meaning that we could still go salsa dancing, but we just couldn't dance every song that we wanted to. And we could have a career. We had 2 kids. However, his ME/CFS unfortunately took a nosedive about a dozen years ago, and he's been, I would say, in severe kind of classification now. He spends most of his time in bed at this time. I started the ME/CFS Partner Caregiver Support Group affiliated with ME Action about 6 years ago, and it became so rewarding for me to meet other fellow caregivers like myself that I actually left my job about 2 years ago, and I am now spending most of my time with Caregiver Wisdom, which I launched with intention of helping support other caregivers. I'm happy to be here today with all of you. I've been asked to answer the question about how do we avoid burnout? How do we strengthen our resilience? And we're in it for a marathon with this particular illness, for better or for worse. So I believe there are 3 steps, 3 strategies to strengthen your resilience as caregivers. The first is to really make sure that you're taking care of yourself. If you burn out, you're no good to anyone. And I've been there actually. I have been burnt out, and I was no fun to be around, and I couldn't really solve problems very well. So that's the first strategy. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. As caregivers, we oftentimes feel guilty for taking time for ourselves, but actually, I believe it's part of your job description as a caregiver to make sure that you can sustain yourself. And so you can actually be a good caregiver. And so the second strategy is to empower yourself. And what I mean by empowering myself, well, I'll go into a little bit more detail what that means, but it can mean several things. And the third strategy is to connect with the community. So I'll go a little bit into more detail about self-care and give you some real life examples in hopes that you can take a few tactics and techniques that I've learned over the years. The first thing I wanted to share with you is the concept of a morning ritual. And that's where my coach has taught me to take 10 minutes every morning before you do stuff for other people, 10 minutes for yourself. And so that may be just waking up in the morning and then doing a few yoga stretches maybe for 10 minutes, or meditating, or enjoying a quiet cup of tea, going out for a quick walk, getting a breath of fresh air before you do any household chores or caregiving chores. Once you set that intention, it really gives you the fuel for the rest of the day and sets a really nice tone. The second tip that I'd love to share with you is doing a good jobs list at night. So you have your morning ritual, then you have your evening kind of before you go to sleep ritual. And that is, again, to do a good jobs list. The good jobs list is you writing down maybe 5 things that you're proud of doing for that day. A lot of caregiving work is invisible work. It's behind the scenes work. It's calling the doctor's office, getting the prescriptions, all of those things. And lots of times it's invisible and lots of times it's not acknowledged by your loved one or other people. You're just doing it as part of your job as a caregiver. Well, the way you can make it visible and the way you can have some acknowledgement is to acknowledge it yourself in the Good Jobs Journal. I found that practice, quite frankly, very transformational for my own journey. So I just wanted to make sure to share that with you here today. And then the second strategy, again, is empowering yourself. And empowering yourself can mean a lot of different things. For me, it can mean everything from getting more help and not you taking everything on yourself. We talk about really, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it certainly takes a village to also caregive someone with such a debilitating illness. It should not be just you, okay? Even though you feel like you're fully capable, and I know you all are, it's just a lot to do for one person. So get a team of people. It could be family members, friends, volunteers, paid help. So if you need help with that, that's something that I'm working on putting together a blog post on for Caregiver Wisdom, my website. I would also mention it can also mean things like setting boundaries with yourself as well as with your loved one or coworkers or family members. That is also part of empowering yourself. I would also say learning how to navigate different kinds of systems, whether it's the medical system, the legal system, applying for disability. You need to empower yourself with a lot of information. Quite frankly, a lot of information you never thought you would have to learn and you don't really want to learn, but here you are. So the more you can empower yourself with this stuff, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are other peoples who have walked this path before you. That's part of the reason why I started Caregiver Wisdom, to share what I've learned over the past 20 plus years. I've been a caregiver for my husband and also my elderly parents. You don't need to walk this path alone. Please do not. It is a lonely path, and we are here to support you. The third thing I wanted to mention as a strategy, again, is connecting with the community. Again, I've been leading one of two support groups with ME Action that is focused on caregivers, and we're here for you. We would love to have you come and attend one of our Zoom meetings just to connect and not feel so lonely and perhaps get some words of advice, or just being there with each other is really powerful. Um, there's also other Facebook groups out there, as well as I believe some on Discord. So there's a lot of support out there that I really encourage you to seek out. I have heard from other caregivers who said they were not comfortable being on social media or had no desire to join social media. So I actually launched my own online community for chronic illness caregivers that's not on social media. So if you're interested in joining that, please reach out to me as well. One of the topics I've been also asked to speak about is ambiguous loss. This is a really important topic to me. Once I discovered this concept, it just resonated so deeply with me. I felt like, oh, that's what I've been feeling this whole entire time. And so, what is ambiguous loss? It's basically a unique type of grief where the person that you love is still alive. They're still physically there, but there's something else about them that has changed. So they may be psychologically absent, or they've been altered by, in this case, a chronic illness. So it really results in a profound sense of loss and grief for both the person who is ill as well as their family members and you as the caregiver. So really, what do you do once you know about this concept? Okay, it's great to feel like, oh, now I know how I've been feeling. What do you do? How do you deal and cope with this? What Pauline Boss, who actually coined this term, what she recommends doing is to, one, acknowledge the loss, acknowledge the grief, and two, to really carry on and live the best life you can and enjoy the life you have that still remains. It's critical to be able to do both. And you may need to fluctuate between the two. In any given day, I kind of switch back and forth, and that's fine. That is really normal. So you may ask, well, how do I do that? Easier said than done, right? Well, there are about a dozen strategies that you can take on to deal with this. I'd like to share a few of my favorite ones, maybe my top three. The first is to let go of what you cannot control and to focus on what you can control. So I can't control that my husband's in bed and in constant pain and is constantly just fatigued, cannot sleep. And even if he sleeps, he is not well rested. I can't personally control that. What can I control? I can control, being there for him. I can control, finding doctors, right? I can control how I react. I can control, my mindset and like, yes, I'm going to help support him as much as possible. But I can't control some other things. So focus on what you can control, let go of what you can't. The second strategy is to redefine your identity. So I actually practice Zen Buddhism, and my Zen teachers talk about non-attachment. And the idea is if you attach to something that you can't have or attach to something that used to be, you can't move forward. You're frozen and you're just stuck. So really the idea is to redefine yourself and don't be so attached to, oh, the way how things used to be. The third strategy is to practice both and or thinking. I'm sorry, both and thinking. Um, so this means balancing two different ideas at the same time. So an example might be, I am a caregiver and I need care as well. I can take care of both him and myself. I am both sad at my loved one's illness, and I could be really happy that we get to enjoy a sunset together today. So those are some examples. There's a lot more to say about ambiguous loss. I talk about it in, hour and a half long support group meetings that I lead. I've also written a blog post on it. So if you'd like to read a little bit more about that, I invite you to come to caregiverwisdom.net and you can check out my blog post there. Another question I've been asked is, how do we maintain hope in light of all of the difficulties and the challenges that our loved ones and we as caregivers face? And in the light of not knowing if there will ever be a cure or not knowing, how they're going to be, how few answers there are really. First off, I want to say that there's a lot more research being done than ever before. So I'm really encouraged by that. And thanks to groups like Bateman Horn doing the research. So really, so hopeful there. I'd also say that, Solve ME and ME Action they're both really wonderful organizations who are doing a lot of advocacy work to help fund research. So I encourage you to participate and volunteer, and it's really not that hard. I was a little intimidated to do it myself, but I ended up doing it, and I was so happy to do so, to contribute your voice. And if you can at all possible have the financial means to donate, I encourage you to donate as well to help with those causes. There's a lot of more movement afoot right now than ever before. In addition, I wanted to share a few things that my Zen teachers have taught me because over the past few years, I've learned more about these concepts that have really helped me as a caregiver to navigate these really big challenges. Again, one of those concepts is non-attachment, to not get attached to what used to be, what you hoped it would be, what you thought your life would be like. All of life is constantly changing. So the thing is, if we then attach to something to how things used to be or how we want them to be, it's not reality, right? It's very human, but it's going to create suffering on your part when you can't have the thing that you want or how you thought it would be. So, letting go and being able to accept things how they really are, and then still moving forward and living the best life you can, given the current situation, is something that I've embraced myself and has helped me quite a bit. After all, hopefully we can all feel that we can experience beauty, hope, connection, and love. And I just briefly in closing want to say that I don't wish this illness on anyone or having to be put in this situation of caregiving for someone with this really terrible illness. That said, I do appreciate that I have learned a lot, and I feel like I have been going on a personal development journey, and I really do appreciate those learnings, those lessons I'm learning, and I feel so much stronger for it. And really just right now, I really want to support others who are going through this horrible situation, and we can get through it better together. So if you're interested in attending a support group, reading blog posts, being part of my course, any of that kind of stuff, would really welcome you to come to visit my website, and you can sign up for the newsletter. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Galen. So Galen, thanks for coming on. Galen Warden is a mother whose son is living with severe ME/CFS. Galen's journey through the emotional stages of grief and loss, both for her own life and her son's, has been deeply inspiring. Galen, could you please begin by sharing the key turning points or tools that have helped you sustain your caregiving role, and give us a little bit of insight into your journey through this illness?
Thanks, Talia. I'm really thrilled to be here. It's good to see everybody and to join, these amazing caregivers telling our story. I really resonated with so many things others have said. My journey began with my complete denial that my son was as sick as he was. He was getting worse and worse for 10 years, in which doctors said nothing was wrong with him and suggested, the standard cognitive behavioral therapy and things like this. Until finally he was not being able to care for himself, not being able to prepare food, do his laundry, bring the cat litter into the house to feed his cat. And during that time, I was just in denial, and I sold the house he was living in, and he had to get into an apartment. And at that point, he was already, like at the latter end of moderate, because my personal, issue was I'm flight, I'm not fight. And when I saw the horrible things going on, I was kind of in denial. I was like that ostrich with my head in the sand. So my journey to caring for him began with the shock of he was bedbound. And that was pretty much when we got his diagnosis, he was bedbound. He could get into a wheelchair. He could get to the bathroom, to the toilet in the wheelchair, but he couldn't walk around anymore. That was when I began to care for him, brought him to South Carolina, to my home. But it was too late, really. I mean, if I had not been such a chicken, maybe I could have done more for him and prevented him from becoming this severe. So he comes to my house. He's completely dependent. He's basically paralyzed. He can't feed himself. I'm spoon feeding him. I'm holding a straw to his mouth, toileting him in the bed. No guidance, no conception of what the hell is this. And I fell apart. I was crying every day. I was angry. I was frustrated. I would do something for him and he would have a criticism about it, and I would go cry. And so I got a therapist and I said, I need help. I'm not managing this. This is not sustainable. They say this is incurable. How can I live like this as this is now? It just isn't. So I went to therapy with the thought that the therapist is going to feel sorry for me and my terrible situation, having to do all this work for my son, where the reality was my therapist pointed out the fact that, it was my issue. It wasn't my son's sickness. It was my issue. I had to go back to my past, where I had a lot of trauma in my childhood that was unresolved. And I was living with this, unaware of this pain in me that was causing me to overreact to everything. And as I went through the therapy and confronted the trauma in my past and said to the little girl, my nickname was Gay Gay, said to her, hey, your mom shouldn't talk to you like that. These adults shouldn't treat you that way. You deserve love. You deserve, respect. And as I began to face my past, deal with that trauma and come through it, all of a sudden it was like overnight, even though it was weeks and months, it didn't bother me when James criticized something I did, oh, the toast is wrong or whatever. Okay, I can remake the toast. It wasn't like, oh my God, I thought I made perfect toast. All of that was gone. And then I became able to take care of business, not be upset, and build that routine Kyle was talking about. I couldn't have a routine when I was falling apart. So this was my mental health journey. And it was very, very important that I take care of me so that I could, rise above those emotions. It wasn't his job to take care of my emotions. He was the one suffering. So that's how that, resolved itself.
Galen, I really appreciate your just frank honesty with this, right? I mean, it's hard and we have to navigate our own grief and loss through this and even our own health and what we go through just on a physical and mental basis. So I want to touch on a couple of other things here. What other mental health aspects are crucial for caregivers to focus on beyond preventing burnout? And how can they integrate these into their daily routines or even weekly routines?
I think Kyle really said some great stuff about this, and I just want to kind of repeat what he said. And that was to, get some earbuds, get some wireless earbuds and listen to music. What your job is not to be a martyr, not to blame the person that your life is miserable and what you've sacrificed, but to find a new path for yourself, to find a new version of the happy you. And it might sound cold to say, how can you be happy when your loved one is so miserable? That is not the point. The point is, how does it help them to have a miserable person taking care of them versus somebody who is content and is able to walk in calm because they've got it together? That's what they need. So I listen to music in my little wireless earbuds. He doesn't hear it. And I dance in my kitchen while I'm, putting my dishes away and doing things. And these are ways that I have built a normalcy to me being me and not just a caregiver. I might even use my earbuds to watch something on Netflix I've seen a few times while I'm doing the dishes. And it's not because I'm focusing on it and going to mess up something, but it's something I'm familiar with. And it's just to be enjoyable, something that is enjoyable to you. And, I need to emphasize everybody's different, and you may not want to dance while you're putting your dishes away, but you might, have something else you do once a week, once a month, go out with a friend, whatever you can make happen. You have to have someone you trust to come into your home and help with your person so that you can make your escape and be yourself. Do something that is quintessential you. Like Kyle was saying, those evenings with friends, play a game or, whatever it is. It could be, when someone comes to my home, basically, sometimes I'm just in my room. I'm writing a book, I'm just alone in my room, but I don't have that hanging over my head. Oh, he's going to need me any minute. That's all gone. So it's really important to have that support.
I don't know if everyone knows that you did this webinar with us previously, but if you haven't checked out Galen's How to Be a Demanding Diplomat video, we will certainly share it in our resource guide because it's another really amazing tool that you've put together, Galen, that offers so many practical steps. And I think that that's the other thing when you're caring for someone with severe ME/CFS. Sometimes you don't quite know what to do, and you have to be really, really creative in being their best advocate. And that extends into school, as Amy's pointed at. It extends into trying to get them the healthcare or needs, just in-home needs for yourself, for them. So I do just want to highlight that that's another amazing resource that you've put together. So thank you. I want to hit on a couple of questions that have been submitted by the community. One of these questions, it keeps surfacing. What suggestions do you have on how to help a loved one who is newly severe. That's kind of a big shift from getting in a routine and trying to figure this out with someone who has been chronic for a long time. We're seeing now a significant number of people becoming newly severe. How do you navigate that? I'd like to start with Kyle on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. And, kind of like what you were saying is patients, they're not always going to know what they need. They know they're in pain and they know they're suffering, but they don't know what the solution is. And you don't know what the solution is either. I mean, really, nobody knows, right? That's why we're still here. So my best advice, kind of once again, is just to try and understand their experience. The best thing that you can do for them in the beginning is to make sure that they are seen, that they felt seen and understood, because they are so lonely and isolated and scared from the disease itself. And building that connection and being open to hearing, what they're saying is hard, but it's necessary. One piece of advice I was given for this is, like, whether you acknowledge what they're going through or not, they're still going through it, right? So your denial of, your resistance, your internal resistance, doesn't change the reality of what's going on. So the kindest thing that you can do is open yourself up to seeing what they're going through, and so that they felt seen, because they're going to go through it whether you're denying it or not. And it's emotionally very difficult, but it is the kindest thing I think you can do for someone who's newly severe.
I have something I'd like to add to that too. As a caregiver, I was in the beginning feeling like there was some kind of pressure on me to find these answers, to go online, to look for the drugs or the specialist or the something to fix this. And I think one of the hardest things that I had to accept was, after a whole lifetime of problem solving, I couldn't solve this. And to accept the fact that there are specialists, there are things you can do, but when they say, this pain is horrible, all I could say was, I'm so sorry. I couldn't say, here, take this Advil, because we learned that Advil didn't do a thing for his pain. So, I would, want to say, can I do this? Can I give you a back rub? Can I, whatever. I had to accept the fact, if he wants me to do something, he will say it. I don't have to keep suggesting things. I don't have to keep trying. I can relax and just listen. I can just say, I'm so sorry that you're going through that, and hear his pain, and, give that, just be present for it and not let it burn me that he's on fire, but just take that fire. So that was really important for me.
Thank you. Both of those were really excellent answers. Amy, I want to go to you. Working in healthcare, you've learned a lot of different ways to try to both navigate, as we've touched on previously, but what happens when you need someone to come into your house? What sort of resources are there that people should be considering? I know the group here, we talked beforehand about some of the things we want to include on that resource guide, but what are some of those, I guess, either apps or state resources or stuff that people should be considering?
It is truly the barrier for people with ME to receive healthcare. I don't know what the answers are, but I think just knowing that saying it's not an option is not the answer. If you are needing, even, if somebody has been sick for quite a few years, they are not going to be getting the dental care that they need. They are not going to be getting their eyes checked. They are not going to be getting, even skin checks to make sure that they aren't, having some crazy moles or different things that need to be attended to. I mean, these are all things that happen just as life progresses that, you need to have just general medical checkup. And we have set up our healthcare system you have to be well enough to receive medical care. And it is really scary and sad because these are the patients that are too sick to get medical care. And even going to the ER, it literally, it's to the point of like, is this really bad enough, or is it almost too bad? I don't want to go. I don't want to take my loved one to the ER because they're too sick. I guess my search has always been putting those kind of those people in my place, on my phone, just who I know that have connections to the medical community. Who are the nurses that I know? Who are the people that have a relative who's a doctor? Who, just really searching out in your contact of like, if my loved one needs an IV, needs IV fluids, instead of going to the ER, is there somebody that I can call? And I know that this is a level of that, people don't have this, this isn't normally in communities. This is, not possible for everybody, but just by putting it out there in, Facebook groups in your community, is there somebody that has these skills that can help me and my family, or somebody else that's needing home health? What are the companies? What are the people that have set up businesses to do blood draws at home? Sometimes people have developed private companies because, kids, pediatric community, they don't want to take their kids, especially during COVID time. They didn't want to take their kids to go get shots. They didn't want to take them to get a blood draw when they needed to. So that there are some mobile blood draw companies that are pop-up sites that you can Google, and we'll put some keywords in our resources for how just to even Google it for your community, and to find out if there are some mobile phlebotomists out there that would come to your home to do a blood draw or do an IV, so you don't have to go to the ER. But also, I've had so many conversations with my dental hygienist and my eye doctor to say, hey, who do you know that can come to my house? And, we've had hygienists who just come with an electric toothbrush, and they come to our house and clean my daughter's teeth just because she needs that care. She needs somebody to be able to look inside her mouth and see if there's something going on. An eye doctor, I called up our local hospital, and I just called up their optometry department and said, who is there? Is there a resident that wants to learn how to do a home visit? Is there somebody that wants to learn how to think about things outside of the actual, medical facility that can, go over to our house, and just do a visit? I'll pay out of pocket. I just want somebody to come to our house that knows what to look for. So I think that if you are finding that your loved one is needing certain care, don't stop by two people saying, no, it's not possible. Keep pushing. That's not the answer I'm looking for. I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm going to find somebody that can help me. So I guess, that's my key thing is, if I'm afraid to be told no, then that's on me. But I cannot turn to my loved one and say, I'm afraid to ask, because they need help. I need to put my own fears aside and go beyond that.
So I love that, Amy. And, something came to mind, the importance of still protecting our loved ones when folks come into our home. COVID is still a very real thing. So are all the other viruses and infections that preceded it. How do you advocate for the safety and protection of your loved one when people are coming into their home and interacting with them? Let's go to Galen for this one.
I ask them to wear a mask when they come in my home, and I have them in the little plastic all ready to go if they need them. But usually if it's some kind of, healthcare person, they say, oh, let me go to my car. And they go back to their car and they get one. So nobody is by standard wearing the mask. Actually, the guys who come with the transport, they are always masked. I never have to ask them. We do a gurney transport for any visit, but and I tell my caregivers, they all know, I don't care if it's a headache. If anything is wrong, stay home. It could be a headache, it could be a sniffle, it could be allergies. Something's wrong, stay home. Don't come. It's okay. We'll be fine. So those are the two things that I do. And of course, I wear a mask when I'm at Publix or, CVS or anywhere, where I'm indoors in a store or whatever. I always wear a mask. And 99.9% of the time, I'm the only one in the store.
This has been really, really insightful and so helpful. We have about 3 minutes left, and I just want to wrap by going around the horn. We'll start with you, Kyle. And I'd love for you just to have a moment to use this platform to tell other caregivers and those who are living with severe ME just one last little piece of advice or piece of hope.
Being a caregiver requires holding a lot of opposite ideas in your head at the same time. You have to have the faith that your lives are going to get better, and you have to also see just how brutal the day-to-day is, and you have to see your partner in pain, and you have to be happy at the same time. And those I don't want to say, oh, the hope is in recovery, but what I will say is that if you focus your energy on understanding how to be a caregiver and how to live in this world, that your life is going to improve. My life was a tornado, and I was very depressed for about, I don't know, a long time, well over a year. And it took a long time to let my partner's journey with pain be their journey with pain. I can't change that, like Galen was saying. And, as I learned how to do it, my life is so much better now. And Diana is happy that my life is better. And, in my personal journey, it so happens that, Diana has seen small improvements. And that could be the case, that could not be the case. It just is how it happens. So sometimes you see some improvements, sometimes you don't. You take the wins when you can, but you have to make sure that your life is focused on, expanding and growing and being the person that you want to be.
Thank you, Kyle. Amy?
Yeah, I think we see this as such a marathon, and I think day to day it's really hard to not get bogged down in like the pains of this disease. This is such a painful, emotional. I mean, you think like all of the stressors, all of the exertions that make this disease horrible, the physical, the cognitive, the social, emotional, every part of this person's soul is changed. And it also, as caregivers, it changes ours. And I think that part can be so overwhelming, but I also feel like there is so much hope. There is so much moving forward. And I know it feels in the moment not to be that shining light, but I think this is a marathon, and we have to just keep going forward. We have to put one foot in front of the next and keep moving. And, with that, we just, there is trust that, that today will be, tomorrow will be better than today, and we just keep moving. But if there are bumps in the road and pitfalls, we have to believe that that's not necessarily what's going to be a major setback, that we just keep moving, putting our head down as caregivers, and bringing our loved one the hope that they don't have the outside resources to really change their immediate environment. So by us just looking a little bit forward, I think is the way that we just keep moving. We just keep going and keep moving, because there is something coming around the corner. But
Thank you, Amy. Galen.
I want to emphasize that for people caring for someone with severe ME, there is a tendency to, especially at the very beginning, to panic and to be nervous and stressed, and everything is an emergency and this kind of thing. And I lost my health. I became sick. I got sarcoidosis in my lungs and in my heart, and I lost my job and all of this because I believe that whole thing I was describing about, how panicked I always was, it killed my health. And I can't be the person that my son needs if I'm, 6 feet under. So I would like to emphasize, turn off the panic button. Don't be constantly on edge. Learn how to, if they need you, if they text, they need something, and it's not an emergency, take a sip of water, go to the bathroom, give yourself a moment before you head in there and deal with this, so that you are a person. You're not just like an extension of their needs. You're your own person. And it's like, okay, they need me. I'm going to go and do the best I can do, but I'm not going to run unless it's, we have a panic button. He has a call button. And if he doesn't have his phone, but like if he's pushing that button, he urinated on himself or something bad happened. And I run, but in general, he's saying, can I have a cup of tea? Okay, I can make you a cup of tea, but I need to go to the bathroom, and I don't need to say any of that. It's just he learns that, and it does get better. Eventually, he started to say things like, please, and thank you. And the next time you're up, and when you're in the kitchen, could I have this or whatever? And that was a major shift in the way things were from when he was super, super severe. But I'm going to echo what Kyle said about, you got to be a human being. And if you can be a happy human being, even though your person is suffering, you're going to be better for them.
Thank you. I have really enjoyed this, and I greatly appreciate all of your vulnerability and time today. I want to encourage everyone, both on this call and hopefully those who watch our recording, to continue these conversations. Be a support for one another. We're all in this together. As a quick reminder, these recordings and the resource guide will be emailed to those who registered in the following days. If you found this resource valuable to you, please consider supporting our free educational webinars. You can do that by making a gift to Solve and Bateman Horn today. The donation will be shared between the two nonprofit organizations. Thank you for your time and participation. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on Wednesday, November 13th, where we will be discussing legal rights and protections for individuals with severe ME/CFS. Until then, take care and please be kind to yourselves.